us, if you will.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that question. Ocean acidification, in the interest of time, is something that I didn't go into depth about, but now now you've given me license to do that, so I'd like to explain what that is. A lot of people, most people have heard of climate change or climate disruption. Ocean acidification, as I said, the other carbon problem, is an issue that fewer people are familiar with. So I'll give you a little bit of a background on what that is. The oceans absorb carbon. They are what is considered a carbon sink. And for decades, scientists believed this was a very, very good thing because the oceans have absorbed about half the carbon human beings have placed into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. So things today would be a lot worse if the oceans had not done that. Unfortunately, as we all know, there is a price for everything. As the oceans have absorbed that carbon, they have become more acidic. Our pH balance has changed. That higher acidity has caused tremendous difficulty for creatures in the ocean that create shells. Coral reef, oysters, clams, shrimp, lobster, small pteropods and certain types of copepods and plankton that, or phytoplankton that create shells. Animals from like lobster all the way down to these small animals at the bottom of the food chain, the types of animals that, say, whales feed upon, krill. As the oceans become more acidic, those creatures are unable to take molecules of calcium carbonate that exist in the water and bind them together to essentially create their shells. There's a phrase in the United States that is popular to describe this called osteoporosis of the oceans. And osteoporosis is of course, that medical bone problem where your bones become more brittle and thin and aren't as strong as we advance in age. Well, this is the same problem in the oceans. As creatures are unable to build their shells, well, you can imagine they would have a great difficulty surviving. And oceans without pteropods and krill and coral and oysters and clams and shrimp and lobster, etc., are not oceans that we want. They are oceans where food chains collapse, fisheries collapse, and the oceans that sustain up to 2 billion people today with seafood as the only or primary source of protein are unable to do so. That is a global catastrophe. And as you pointed out, this is not for debate. This type of an experiment can be done in a high school chemistry room. You raise the pH or lower the pH to make more acidic of salt water, put more carbon. Creatures cannot extract calcium carbonate. So what is the solution to ocean acidification or any carbon problem or any pollution problem, period? The solution, as science has proven now, is that ecosystems that are healthy to begin with and robust are able to withstand these types of impacts better than ones that are sick. So it means that we as policymakers, as urban planners, as builders, must ensure that ecosystems remain as healthy as possible. It makes sense. Think about it in the context of a human. Let's say a human is suffering from a disease like meningitis or tuberculosis or something. If then they contract cancer or they contract any other types of diseases, they have a great difficulty surviving. We can perhaps survive cancer alone. We can survive many diseases in isolation. But it's very difficult if you're suffering from multiple diseases to survive. It's the same in the environment. If an ecosystem is healthy, the chances that it can survive the stress of ocean acidification, of warmer ocean temperatures that are largely responsible for collapsing coral reefs like you saw in the Florida Keys, of deforestation, of coastal pollution, if they're healthy, they might be able to survive one of those things. But if we're already chopping the trees down, dumping industrial waste and pollution, destroying wetlands and coastal habitats so we can put up buildings or put in industry, then what little environment remains that is already sick, these other larger problems like ocean acidification, carbon issues, etc., are the last nail in the coffin, so to speak. They're the last straw, and ecosystems cannot survive. So it makes it more important for us to be careful in how we build, from a green perspective, to protect ecosystems and wild places and keep them as healthy as possible, so that these bigger global issues that we can't change right away, we do have control over local pollution. We have control over what we cut down and what we destroy. That's the only way that we can provide an opportunity for these ecosystems that sustain us to survive some of these bigger global challenges. Anything else? Let's see, what time is it? 4 minutes. We got 4 minutes if there's another question. Yes, in the back there, in the middle, kind of back. And this will be the last question, then I'll let you go, because I know lunch is coming up, and my grandfather did a lot of public speaking. He always told me it's very dangerous to come between an audience and food. So I will be brief in my next answer and let y'all go.
First of all, welcome to our country again, and we are very pleased to see you, as I am personally a follower of your grandfather's documentaries since I was a child. My name is Kemal from Energy, Oil and Gas newspaper. I want to ask one thing. For the next 30 or 50 years, could you assume or say that the governments of the world will invest for green building or environment protection in order to achieve more successful results than today?